hosted by Broward County's Environmental Engineering and Permitting Division. We're part of the Air Quality Program, and we have the support today of Broward County's Planning and Development Management Division. I know, these names are so long. So today we're going to focus on asbestos regulations, common areas of non-compliance in Broward County, sample projects, and the electronic permits process. My name is Monica Ospina, and along with our team, we'll be guiding the presentation for today. So let's get started. Okay, let's go into full mode. All right, this is our contact information if you do want to note it down. And before we begin, we do have some housekeeping rules. So questions will be answered in the Q&A chat box. So please type away your questions as we move forward. We will be stopping and answering questions that we see. So as soon as you have something that comes up, definitely put in the chat box and we'll be monitoring that. This will be an interactive webinar, so we'll have some poll questions coming up. In addition, we'll also have 2 3-minute breaks. So for you guys, get up, move your legs, drink some coffee. Please mute yourselves. If there is any interference or any sounds, we will mute you. Sorry about that. And in the interest of time, we will try to answer every single question, but if we can't, we'll make sure to note them down and send them to you via email along with this recording. We'll also make sure to post the recording and any questions on the Environmental Engineering and Permitting website. Today, we have 3 wonderful speakers. Their subject matters in asbestos. We have our staff engineer, Michael Onge, our asbestos inspector, Fitzroy Bell, and Robert Wong, who is the environmental program supervisor. So we will continue, and our first speaker today is Mr. Fitzroy Bell. Teddy, also known as Teddy, take it from here.
Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Fitzroy Bell. I'm the asbestos inspector for Broward County's Environmental Engineering Permitting Division. I've been with the county for a little over 10 years, and I enjoyed my up and down relationship with asbestos for about 4 years. I work with a hard working team that consists of dedicated professionals that keep the asbestos program up and running, even in our current environment. Today, I will be discussing Broward County's asbestos program. Next, please. The present points are as follows. A short overview on asbestos, asbestos regulations, Broward County's Statement of Responsibility regarding asbestos, affectionately called SRRA, notification requirements, and a few sample projects. Last but not least, where people go wrong, non-compliance. Next, please. Asbestos was used mostly in commercial, industrial, and manufacturing. Like sugar, asbestos could be found in just about every building product. Why was asbestos so popular? Well, it's non-flammable, it has a high electrical resistance, it's chemical resistance, it has excellent thermal stability and thermal resistance, and it's an excellent insulator. Just to mention a few of its superpowers. I will not mention the bad stuff, like you already know, but contrary to popular belief, asbestos was not fully banned in the United States. And do remember, there is still plenty of asbestos around. Next. The following are the federal, state, and local regulations pertaining to asbestos. I will be discussing each regulation in depth. That's a joke, guys. I will not be discussing each regulations in depth. My focus will actually be on Broward County's Chapter 27, 180. Okay, asbestos NESHAP. NESHAP set the standards for demolition and renovation projects, waste disposal requirements, and approve asbestos waste disposal sites. Next, please. Here we see a table, cross-reference regulations, EPA, OSHA, DOT, MSHA. Broward County's Chapter 27, Section 180. Second. This regulation applies to all renovation and demolition projects covered under NESHAP. Broward County also has additional notification requirements. Next, please. On the left, you'll see demolition project. Demolition, as according to NESHAP, is wrecking or taken out of any load supporting structural member. Renovation, alteration in any way of a facility, including asbestos removal. On the right. Next slide. Now we will go through some key terms in the world of asbestos. What is ACM? What defines a facility? What does friable mean? Next, please. Other terms to know is residential. What constitutes the residential exemption? What defines an owner or an operator? What are condominiums? Are they exempt as well? According to the definition, condominiums, apartments that have more than 4 dwellings are subject to NESHAP and not exempt. Next. Other important terms, asbestos containing material, commonly called ACM. We have non-friable ACM. We have category 1, non-friable ACM, and category 2, non-friable ACM. Here are some examples of category 1 and category 2 non-friable ACM. On the left, are they cleaning to prevent COVID spread? No, they are removing resilient floor tiles. On the right, you'll see an abatement contractor removing transite roofing panels. And as you can see, they have the asbestos hazard signs. Thank you. I was just making a point that they have the hazard signs there, but you can keep it on this one, that's fine. What is RACM? RACM stands for Regulated Asbestos Containing Material. Rackham is also friable asbestos material. We have category 1, non-friable ACM, category 2, non-friable ACM. ACM becomes friable according to what the list that you see there. And that's very important here in asbestos. Before you go to the next screen, asbestos it's very important to understand that asbestos regulations are based on friable, non-friable, or if the material will be subject to become friable. So these are very important terms to understand in the world of asbestos. Next, please. Are we there yet? I know it's been a very adventurous ride so far, but we're going to stop for any questions, any concerns, and I turn it over to Robert Wong.
Yeah, hello, folks. This is Robert Wong. This is just giving you guys a chance to let us know if there's anything that up front you would like us to answer. And if not, I would say just jot the questions down and we'll have time at the end of the presentation to answer those questions as well. And just note that the slide presentation, all this is being recorded and will be made available to you guys. So you'll have access to it even if you don't record everything at this point, okay?
I don't see any questions currently, so we'll be taking a 3-minute break. Please come back at 2:17.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we hope you enjoyed those 2 minutes. Robert, we do have two questions, and they come from Robert Lozano, and he's asking, who do we contact if we see a violation?
Okay, good question. There are many ways to do it. One, you can always contact one of us if it's one of us from the asbestos program. We'll provide you with the email addresses and contacts later. We also have a generic way of just referring emails to us, and that is through EPD hotline at broward.org. We'll provide that email address later on. And then finally, Broward County also has a central complaint intake through it's referred to as Q Alert. And that link, we'll also provide that so you can give us the details of who, what, where, and why, you're complaining about. So there are many ways to do that.
I just sent them in the link, which is mybroward.broward.org. Thank you for that question. We have another one. Is a NESHAP notification required for a single family residence, which is being converted to a commercial property?
Yes. If what is exempt is the use of the facility or the property. If it's a single family home being demolished and a single family home again for dwelling or less, then it's exempt. But if you're demolishing it for other purpose, no longer for residential purposes, then it becomes something. It becomes subject to the asbestos regulations with all the requirements of survey and notification, etc.
And we have another question, Robert. This one comes from Stephen. He's saying that in Miami-Dade County, they're requiring report certifications if the asbestos report is over 2 years old. Is Broward County following the same procedure? And what is the shelf life of the asbestos survey in Broward County?
I don't think, well, Teddy can answer that as well. He's been looking at some surveys, but if someone does, I don't think it's a straight answer, because if there is a survey, and it could be 6 months old and there's been changes to the building, well, that survey is no longer any good, no matter how qualified the survey person is. So we do look at what happened from the point when they first did the survey, and then make a determination whether that survey is still useful. We don't want to say no right away, because obviously a survey is a cost to the owner or operator of the facility, and so we'll use common sense to make a determination whether an old survey is still useful.
All righty, thank you very much. And Teddy, this is, we'll go back to you, okay?
Okay, ready to go?
Yes, take it from here.
Okay, so standard for demolition and renovation. Asbestos NESHAP. NESHAP sets the standards for demolition and renovation projects. 1 second. Okay, I was on the wrong paper. Sorry, guys. I know that sounded a little bit different. Okay, EPA NESHAP requires thoroughly inspect. Prior to demolition or asbestos removal above threshold amounts, NESHAP requires the project to be thoroughly inspect. They did not actually give a definition of thoroughly inspect. However, we want to make sure that nothing's missing when it comes to a demolition or renovation project. So therefore, we normally based thoroughly inspect on AHERA, which does have 357 sampling methods. Also, Broward County Chapter 27-180 requires an asbestos survey to be submitted with a notification whether the building is 30 years old or built yesterday. And it is also important to note that the threshold amount, the 260, 160, and 35 cubic feet, those are the threshold amount in where regulated asbestos kicks in if you're doing any renovation work. This is where you would need an asbestos survey if the scope of the work meets the threshold amount. And for drywall specifically, a lot of customers come in and they show us the plans, and the drywall square footage may be 8 by 10, which would be 80 square feet. But for drywall purposes, we do count both sides. So so that 8 by 10 would actually be the 160. Okay, next, please. Broward County Statement of Responsibility Regarding Asbestos, the SRRA. When a customer applies for a city building permit for a renovation, roofing, or demolition project, one of the requirements is that the customer obtains the SRRA certificate from the county. This helps to ensure that customers have accounted for any asbestos concerns. Next, please. Here is a sample of what the SRRA certificate looks like. Here is another copy of the SRRA. My colleague, Michael Onge, will give an action-packed presentation on the ins and outs of obtaining the SRRA. We'll be waiting for that after this presentation. Notification requirements. All demolition, roofing, or asbestos removal renovation projects that fall under NESHAP requires a 10-day notification form to be submitted to our department. Here is an example of the 10-day notification form and all the required sections to be filled out. It is quite important that you fill this form out completely, as it is sent to the state.
And Teddy, I'm going to leave this on for just one more minute so people can, if they are taking notes, they can maybe note this. Okay?
Yeah.
And Teddy, if I may, this is Robert. If I may, folks, if those who are doing this as a business, it's very important that we get, we pointed out a few areas here and there that's important that folks sometimes miss. It's very important that we get all this information, because one of the things that we try to do is we update, the databases, and there's certain requirements where we have to provide this information. If it's not there, it slows down the project, because obviously we'll have to email, call, figure
Robert,
out.
I think you're going in and out.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you hear me or no? Oh, okay. So I need to figure out a different way. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah,
Oh.
you're good, Robert.
Oh, I'm
You're
so
good.
sorry. I think because I'm in the building and I'm using a different, like a VPN or so, but hopefully you guys got the gist of what I was trying to say, is that
Yep.
by giving us the details, more details, it speeds up the process. We're able to. Okay, I'm sorry. No, it's okay. It's okay. Did most of you get what I said, or no?
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, I'm gonna try a different connection and we'll get back to this later. Thanks. Yeah, I don't know what happened here.
Okay, can everybody hear me, or am I coming in like Robert?
No, we can hear you loud and clear.
I'm coming on clear.
I don't want to be coming in like Robert a while ago. It sounded like he was jogging. Okay, anyway, I believe what Robert was trying to say is that to fill out all the required sections. A lot of time your projects, there's missing information and we can't go forward with the form unless we know exactly what the scope of the work is, and you input all the information in there, which is very important for us to know. And also on this form, you can also do revisions at the top. You'll see where it says revisions, if there is any change of start date or any additional RACM was found. At this point, this is the bottom of the form that needs to be filled out as well. The contractor's information. The start date is very important because that's what determines when your project starts and when the inspector goes out to see the project so we can inspect it. We need to know where the asbestos waste is being hauled. And we definitely need to know the amount of RACM that's been found or not found if this is a demolition project or a roofing project. Last but not least, the next slide, please. Don't forget to sign the form and date the form. That's also a major requirement. If the form is not signed and dated, then it's not submitted as a 10-day notification, and that could be a violation. Next. Okay, now we're at the all-confusing roofing. Residential units, 4 or fewer dwellings are still exempt under NESHAP. Roofing projects that fall under NESHAP are also required to submit a 10-day notification. EPA has determined that when a rotating blade, roof cutter, or equipment that similarly damages the roofing material is used to remove Cat 1 non-friable ACM roofing material, commonly called built-up roofing, any project that is 5580 square feet or greater is subject to NESHAP. For asbestos cement shingles or any other Category 2 roofing material, if the area of the roofing material to be removed is at least 160 square feet, and the removal will crumble, pulverize, or reduce to powder, then the removal is subject to NESHAP. Manual roof removal is not subject to NESHAP. Training requirements for on-site representative. It's always required that an on-site representative is on-site when any NESHAP projects are being done.
Robert, are you there?
Is Robert available?
I am here, but I'm not sure if you guys can hear me because I'm still on the VPN. I'm trying to get off the VPN.
We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
I do have a couple questions for you.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So Luis Hernandez asks, what is your stance on a condo owner or mixed occupancy owner removing carpeting that is not adhered to floor slab? Is that form of removal of rolled carpet required to have you guys involved?
Unfortunately, yes, because obviously common sense will dictate that we probably do not need, to look at that. But in the mastic, which is something that the EPA regulates, there could be asbestos. We have not seen an exemption from what's that? Oh, okay. Well, let me go to yeah, all right. Okay, hold on a second.
Okay, so while Robert fixes his connection, Teddy, do you have any clarification as far as that?
Okay. Can you guys hear me now?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Am I loud and clear?
Yes.
I don't hear anybody.
Hello, anybody there?
Yeah, audio is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're having some issues here with the communication in the building. Because can you guys hear us or no?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, you're breaking up too. You're breaking up here. Oh shucks.
All the audio sounds perfect to us.
Michael, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Can you please provide some clarification to Lewis's question while Robert gets it fixed?
Yeah, definitely. So as far as that removal having us involved, it would have us involved in the sense that you're going to be pulling a permit to be removing that flooring with your city, and typically with any renovation permits, your city's.
Sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear me, but I'm having a connection problem. I'm not hearing anything. I'm going to try to log back out and log in.
Okay. Thanks, Teddy. Michael, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. So again, if you're pulling permit with your city, and it's going to be for renovation, which the removal of that flooring would be, they'll ask you for a certificate of, of a statement of responsibilities regarding asbestos from Broward County. So you will have to make an application with us. Chances are we won't ask you, we'll look at the plans and see what's going on with the flooring that you're removing. So in that specific situation and something that you're just kind of rolling up, it's not adhered to anything. We wouldn't ask you to do anything further than making an application, but you would still have to.
Okay, because Lewis specifically said that he's referring to not adhered.
Yeah, I understand. So it's more that the city's going to ask you for permit for that. So we come up as part of that process. It's not like we won't specifically make you get that certificate.
Okay, he has a further question, but I'm going to put him into contact with you and Robert so the question can be answered. The next question I have is from Jose Admin. He says, SRRA requested prior to permit issuance. Sorry.
I think we need to mute Robert's mic.
Hello,
Sammy,
Sammy?
could you ask that one more time, Sammy?
Yeah, sorry, there was some feedback. SRRA required prior to permit issuance.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it works. The city, you'll go try to pull permit with your city, and either they'll let you know or they'll let you know at some point in the permitting process. Most cities usually have some sort of like basic requirements that they'll put out saying, hey, all renovations, all roofs, all demolitions require this certificate from Broward County. So yeah, you'll get that application from us, and then you'll put that in your permit package to pull from the city.
Thanks, Michael. We do have one more question from Robert Alonzo. He says, can a NESHAP be submitted without a survey if the material is assumed? Or must a survey be performed for all projects?
You want me to answer? Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, good. Okay, so it all depends, but here's the thing. There is, unfortunately, there's no exemption anywhere in the federal, NESHAP regulations. And so there's always the question of when you submit something, what is it exactly? Well, with the naked eye, you don't know what it is, right? So the only way that we make that determination, if it's subject, is through knowing what the material is, whatever it is. Okay, now I can give you one example though that we thought that it was not necessary, and that was like an aircraft hangar. Well, it was all concrete, and it was metal, and they provided us with information as to what that building was all about. And so after taking a look at it, we go, okay, that would be someone that may not be subject to the asbestos regulations, but it's all on a case-by-case basis. We don't do blanket approval for anything, because there's just no exemption other than the ones that EPA has approved.
And also, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, this is Fitzroy. And also, Broward County 27180 requires an asbestos survey with a notification. So it is one of Broward County's code that a survey is required when a notification is submitted.
Okay, that is all the questions that I am currently seeing. If you want to continue the presentation, as now the voice issue has been resolved. Teddy, can you please go ahead?
Yes. Okay, now we're at proper handling and waste disposal. As you can see, for waste disposal, we want to make sure that the asbestos containing waste material are in leak tight containers, and warning signs are visible. Next. More information on proper handling and waste disposal. Shipment records has to be provided. Location of where the waste was generated has to be affixed to the waste material. Vehicles also should be marked containing asbestos waste material. Proper waste disposal sites. As you know, asbestos containing waste material are permitted at certain asbestos waste dump sites. According to NESHAP, arrangements has to be made, and the disposal waste has to be sent to an approved disposal site that accepts asbestos. Now we will view some inspection projects. Abatement project, proper handling, asbestos warning sign, and correct PPE when handling asbestos. Next, please. When cities upgrade their water main pipe infrastructure, these pipes are normally asbestos cement pipes that need to be handled according to NESHAP requirements. This is pipe bursting and pipe replacement. DOT bridge expansion projects require the removal of class 5 asbestos paint prior to bridge expansion or bridge demolition. As you can see, the contractors are removing asbestos. I was just making a point that they're actually removing the asbestos paint, as you can see on the left, prior to any work being done on the bridge. Next. Asbestos transite panels were shipped from St. Thomas to be dumped at an approved asbestos waste site. There was a big asbestos project in St. Thomas. Unfortunately, they did not have an asbestos waste dump site, so they shipped it here, and we received it in Broward County at Monarch Hill. And we also do inspections industrial demolition sites. This particular site was a FPL demolition site. With this type of demolition, asbestos pipe insulation must be removed prior to demolition. Robert, did you want to take questions at this time?
Absolutely. If there's any indication or anything.
Hi, Robert. I do not see any questions at this time. For the 35 of you who are currently tuned in, thank you for attending. Aside from asking questions in the chat, we also have poll questions. So when you see them pop up on your screen, be sure to answer. But I do not see any questions at this time. So Teddy, please go ahead.
Okay, now we reach the fun part. Common violations. Okay, here you can see the common areas of non-compliance. Unfortunately, I do have many stories to tell you about each of these common violations, such as notification issues, no survey, demolition contractor removing asbestos, the abatement not being done properly, or a painting project that turns into a complete demolition. So, like I said, these are the common areas of non-compliance. And it would be helpful if this particular screen, I would actually make a printout of this screen if it was my company and put it somewhere where we use as a checklist. Next. Here we see the list of violation descriptions and the related Broward County's violation code. Failure to inspect the facility prior to the start of the work. And you'll see where there's a variety of different failures and the respective violation Broward County codes.
And Teddy, with this one, I'm going to leave it on just for a
Yes.
few more seconds, okay?
Yes, yes, definitely. This is also um, a good screen for you to print out as well and use as a checklist when if you're not sure about what you're doing or if you need to contact us because you think that you may not be doing it up to code, you can always give us a call and we can always advise you on if you are following the regulations or not. Okay. Florida Building Code 105.3.6. This requires a statement of responsibility. We get a lot of questions on why do we need to do a responsibility and so forth. And this code shows why the statement of responsibility is required. In addition to our code as well. Okay, license requirement. This is Florida Statute 469. This one is pretty important as well. I've encountered companies that take their own samples and submit to us their lab results. However, we do need an asbestos survey from a certified Florida asbestos consulting company. So there's a lot of violations that go out with this because for some reason, contractors think that they can just take their own samples, send it to the lab, and they submit that to us. We find a lot of companies that do home inspections or popcorn removal. They'll do their own samples, send it to the lab, submit it to us, and there goes a violation right there. Okay, this one is 469, licensed asbestos consultant and asbestos contractor. They also need to be licensed by the Department of Business and Professional Regulations, DBBPR. And this is the requirement of what license they need and how to go about obtaining it, and information pertaining to license. This is additional information for the contractors, and also the license that needs to be renewed every 2 years, and the course that needs to be done continuously, keeping your DBPR license updated. Next. We do have some frequently asked questions. ACM is non-friable, therefore does NESHAP apply? Well, if the amount of ACM is over the threshold amount and it may need to be removed, depends on, like I said, over the threshold amount, it may need to be removed. An asbestos survey needs to be done. Are there any exceptions to the 10-day notification? We get that a lot. A lot of people submit the notification, they check on the box emergency because it's their emergency and they need to get it done right away. However, NESHAP doesn't consider that an emergency notification. It has to be in like an order demolition, and then you have to also inform us of the emergency before it's approved. What if rackham is mixed with non-asbestos containing material due to inability to remove the rackham? We find a lot of problem with demolition projects. They may have some popcorn ceiling in there above the 160 square feet, but they don't want to remove it. They go ahead and they demolish the building. It's a 4,000 square feet building, and now all the building becomes contaminated with asbestos, and now you have a violation incorporating that 4,000 square feet instead of removing the 160 square feet previously. So whenever rackham is present, that's above the threshold, then it is required to be removed before demolition if it is being demoed.
So at this time, we do have one question for Robert. Robert, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Robert asks, does drywall with only the joint compound that is positive need to be removed as asbestos?
Well, that's a tricky question. But here's the thing: does the amount meet the threshold of 160 square feet? If a survey was done and the drywall is found not to contain any asbestos, and just a joint compound, well, did the survey, the asbestos consultant in his report, what did he report? Did he report that the total number is 160 square feet? Okay, or if you know if it's on a piping, obviously you're looking at 260 linear feet. But there is a threshold, and the threshold needs to be met or exceeded in order for it to be considered rackham or regulated.
We have another question from Ivy Fradden. Can you please clarify non-friable ACM, quotations, may need to be removed, quotations, if above threshold. If it is not, entire structure must be disposed of as ACM, correct?
I'm not sure I understand. Teddy, you understand that question?
No, you can read that one more time, please.
Okay. Ivy is asking, can you please clarify non-friable ACM? May need to be removed if above threshold. If it is not, does the entire structure need to be disposed of as ACM?
I think my answer would be no, because if it's non-friable ACM and you're taking it very cautiously, because remember, the whole program, the whole asbestos program is avoiding, tiny little asbestos fibers in the air. So when it's non-friable as ACM, that means that it could be in transite or category 1, but it doesn't become friable if you are, like, say, if it's a transite panels, you saw them taking it off a house or a shed. If it's carefully taken down and it doesn't like thrown out and it goes all over the place, then obviously it can be treated, as not needing to go through the whole process. So no, so it doesn't have to be abated if it's going to be handled in such a way that it doesn't become friable, pulverized, and then becomes airborne.
Okay, we have one more question and then we'll head to a short break. Ivy asks again, if non-friable ACM is not removed, can debris from structure be recycled?
Teddy, you got that one?
Yeah, well, if it's non-friable ACM, like category 2, like Robert mentioned earlier, the panels, whenever they send a notification into us, and it's category 2 non-friable, such as the transite panels, the first question that I ask is, the removal method. A lot of time they put courtesy notice for those jobs, but it depends, like Robert said previously, it depends on the removal method. If you're on top of the roof and you throw in this AC this transite panel off the roof, and it's breaking up into different pieces, it's being airborne, then that's not a courtesy anymore, because you're disturbing it in a way that it's becoming friable. So that's the old concept. The concept is the removal method going to make it friable or not? If it's not, then it's a courtesy, and you follow the proper manual procedures of removing it. And that's where I come on site and I take a look and see if it's being removed properly.
Okay, thank you, Teddy and Robert. We'll have more time later in this webinar for questions, but right now we are going to take a short 3-minute break. Please go ahead and stretch, walk around, and be back at 2:57. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome back.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Thank you for sticking around with us. You may think to yourselves, there are a lot of breaks in this webinar, but we know that there's a lot of information, and we're loving that you guys are sending us questions and participating in the webinar. So our next speaker, from here, we're going to say thank you to Teddy. This was a great presentation. We hope that all your questions were answered. And now we're actually going to move on with our second part of the webinar. And we have Michael Onge, our staff engineer. So Michael, this is all you now.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Michael Onge, and I work with Broward County's Environmental Engineering and Permitting Division. Specifically, I work in air quality licensing and as well as processing paperwork and things like that for asbestos. So I think we're good. We'll be talking about e-permitting and one-stop. And so these are a small, short list of frequently asked questions that we normally get. So the first one is, do I have to come into the Broward County office? I'm just going to read through these, and we'll actually get to answering them throughout the presentation. So the city said I needed something with asbestos. Do I have to order a report or a survey? My plans are with the city. Do you still need to see them? My house or building was built in 2001. Does that exempt me from obtaining the certificate? Asbestos was banned in 1970. Why does this program even exist? And then I made an account, signed in, and nothing happens when I select proceed to e-permits. Where do I go? Sure. So we'll be answering actually all these questions in this presentation. So if you find yourself asking something similar to anything like this, or if you have any other questions, just write them into the just let us know. Good to go. Cool. So, like I was saying earlier, at least trying to answer Lewis's question, I think that I was more assuming that Lewis's question was residential. But regardless, all demolition, re-roofs, and renovations do require a permit in Broward County. They require a statement of responsibilities regarding asbestos in Broward County. That's required with your building, with your city building permit. The SRA process is a process that's required regardless actually of the year built as part of your building's department's permitting process. And everything starts online at epermits.broward.org. Cool. So these are some things that are going to be good to have handy while you're making your application. Actually, just 1 second, if you can excuse me for a second. Sorry about that, my power cable disconnected. Okay, so first things first, you're going to require a computer or device capable of accessing internet. This is any phone, tablet, or device. Our website definitely works the best in Internet Explorer. The system will actually recommend you do that, but any device would work. You just have to be capable of accessing like the settings and stuff like that, and that'll become more important as we go on. So we're going to want an email address. And then you're also going to want to have the information of the property that you're working on handy. Something that we recommend is the property appraiser's office. It's a great website. And that specifically gives us the address, owner name, and usually the square footage of the building. That's usually handy. And then in addition to that, we're also going to require contact information. So how do we reach out to you? And then finally, you're going to want your plans in a digital format. You're going to want these usually in a PDF. That's our standard. And then you can have this on like a thumb drive, USB, or in your email.
Thank you, Michael. At this point, we're going to break for questions. Robert, we do have one question for you. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, we can hear you. Robert Lonzo asks, can a homeowner remove asbestos from their own home?
A homeowner can remove asbestos if he is doing it, correct. but a homeowner cannot hire an unlicensed person to do it. And that is in the code. And
Okay.
I believe that's in the building code as well. So yeah. So in short, yes, a homeowner can do his own. Like say if he has popcorn, he can remove his own popcorn ceiling. Yeah.
Does anyone have any further questions at this time? Give it a few seconds. I do not see any further questions. However, we will have an opportunity later to ask them. Michael, please go ahead.
Cool. So this is what I was talking about with the property appraiser. Clearly, we can see Broward County. This is our office. Our office's site address, the owner, the Board of County Commissioners, as well as our mailing address. You can see a bunch of tax information as well as the adjusted building square footage in the lower right-hand corner. So again, this is where you would find this specific link here, this with this folio number. And then again, this is just something to have handy while you're making your application. This will just make things kind of run smoother. Or it's good to check against the information because sometimes people have confusion sometimes with like Fort Lauderdale or unincorporated Broward. Good to go. All right, so we've kind of, let's say we have all our information ready. Where do I go now? So my city asked me for an SRA. How do I begin? So you would start on our website. That's epermits.broward.org. There's two big blue buttons on that website. One of them is to sign in. The other one's to register. So we're going to be using one and the other. We'll be registering kind of like you would any website. You put like username, email, that kind of stuff. And once you do finally get registered and sign in, just note that the application that you make, the number of steps is actually going to be based on the facility type. If it's a single family home and it's like, a single structure or up to 4 units or less, then we're actually just going to ask that you make the application, throw in your contact information and give us a property address. And then that's it. For anything else, for any units, for any residential structure that's more than 4 dwelling units, like condos or anything like that, or regular commercial building projects, it'll have a couple more steps where we ask you for plans or a few more questions, basically as applicable. At the bottom of this page, actually, there's a short link to a video that I made recently to walk you through kind of our e-permitting process. The good thing about that video is even if you have a higher order project, say like it's not the single family, you have to answer a couple more questions. The video is still pretty useful because it kind of shows you how to register and navigate through those kinds of issues as well.
So, Michael, I'm going to leave this on just for one more second so people can jot down that link, okay?
And then Sammy dropped that in the chat as well.
Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and move on.
While we are waiting for people to, check out and bookmark the link, I do have a question from Luis Hernandez. Do you consider a condo unit owner different from a home owner if they want to remove ACM?
Yes. So the difference, it's not so much that the difference is between a condo unit owner or a homeowner. It's the fact that the condo is different than a single family home. If a condo is part of like an overall, it's got multiple units type of thing, more than 4, then we would consider that being we would treat that basically like any other commercial project. So where we would require testing, and if it's over, 160 square feet, then it would have to be done by a Florida licensed asbestos contractor.
Thank you, Michael.
Sure. So getting to the, I guess, tougher applications, the commercial application. Things to remember are that the scope of work must be clearly defined. Usually, just having a small little write-up, this really helps in the case of re-roofs or demolition projects. But normally we'll always look at your plans regardless. So we just kind of ask that you kind of point us in the right direction as far as what you're doing, so we kind of know what we're looking for. Then the system will ask you to put in a start date for your project. Basically, all projects must be submitted, or the start date must be at least 14 days after you make the application. And that's just like a standard for the system. The system actually won't accept any date lower than that. So just make sure that for the sake of making your application, it has to be at least 14 days out. If it's a renovation project or a project that doesn't have any asbestos on it or anything like that, then we'd actually let you start as soon as you get the permit. But that's a little bit more nuanced. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Cool. So let's say we've now signed in, we've created an application, and now we kind of want to see what happens, what's next after that. So before, once we sign in, we'll actually use that submit application button that's there on the top left. We'll use that to make the application, but we'll actually use my applications a little bit lower, circled by the yellow box. We'll use that to actually check the status of our application. So as we can see here, we have 3 different projects with 3 different statuses. We can see that the permit type is for asbestos statement of responsibilities. It gives us an ID. Make sure you have that handy if you're going to talk to us on the phone. Usually makes things quicker. And then e-permit status refers to the fact that you've made the application. So you're finished, as in finished making the application. We have another ID number. And then we finally have the status of the project. So going over some things, in review means that you have a project that is in review. Typically, this is the status that is given to all projects that are submitted and have fees paid. Once you're at that point, your project says in review, and typically it takes 24 to 48 hours for us to get something back to you, whether that be an email asking for more information or the actual certificate. As far as fees do, that's again pretty straightforward. You would actually click into this and there's a little pay fees tab. Basically, the review process does not begin until we receive the review fee. And then finally, that approved status. With the approved status, that means you're done. So that moves you to the next point. No, that was fine. Once you finish submitting your application, we'll pay a review fee. That's the point about the fees due status. Again, just reiterating the 48-hour review turnaround time for anything. And then by clicking those buttons, those status buttons, that actually puts you further into the project. When you do click that approved button where it says approved, it'll move you to a screen that has 4 different tabs, one of which says view your documents, and you'll actually be able to see the document that we're talking about. So let's move on. Perfect. So this is the screen that shows up when you do actually click into your project. As we can see, it gives us a little bit of information about our project. It says project name, our type, those ID numbers. So if you just have like a single family home or your project doesn't have any plans required or anything like that, you're just going to see this simple screen here. It's possible that the screen gets a little bit larger as you put in more and more plans or documents, but still you can see the file name Asbestos certificate of submittal there. Again, this is in the View Docs tab, and you can see there's a small little magnifying glass button there on the left-hand side. If you click that, the certificate, which is shown here on the left, will show up. And this certificate is actually what you do need to take to the city for your permit. Okay, so these are the most common things that lead to delays. And just going off the top, outstanding review fees, impact fees associated with asbestos removal, demolition, or re-roofing. Sorry about that. Okay, so outstanding review fees, impact fees associated with asbestos removal, demolition, or re-roofing. Oh man, that's not gonna go away. Again, excuse me for that. If we do not receive fees associated with demolition, re-roof, asbestos removal, or anything like that, that'll actually hold up the certificate process. Basically, we were finding that we would be approving everyone's certificates and then asking for information on the back end. And that basically led to a lot of questions later on, where we would be missing asbestos reports, fees, all sorts of things that weren't just the review fee. So at this point now, we just kind of hold everything up until we receive everything. Next would be, again, not getting documents. In a lot of cases, most people they're missing plans. They typically think that they submitted to the city, and then why would we might need to see them? Just make sure you always have a digital copy of your plans. That makes everything way easier. Things like asbestos reports, demolition notices. The next one would be incorrect addresses, or the address is not found on property appraiser. One thing about our department is we typically employ the ECPA. We use the property appraiser's website for almost everything. So when we check an address and it's not available, we'll usually put that on hold. Typically, the customer will call us, letting us know what's going on with that. So we do know that any BSO, firefighters, judges, anyone with protected identity won't have their information on BCPA. So if that's ever the case, just give us a call. And then again, excluding contact information. If you don't put your email on the file, the system will actually never get to you. It'll never let you know that we're missing plans or anything like that. So make sure that if you're responsible for the permit, your email shows up somewhere on the file. Cool. And then these are, I guess, some tips to follow when you're making applications to help reduce your review time. So projects that don't have any demolition, renovation, anything like that, basically new construction, these typically don't even require a review from us. So if it's all being built up and stuff like that, you really shouldn't require the certificate from us. I do know that some cities like to ask for it, but again, new construction, really, we're mostly concerned with stuff coming out or down. Next would be the review process for applications for interior renovations of residential properties with more than 4 dwelling units and commercial properties. We definitely need a set of plans or a sketch showing the scope of work. Make sure that's, if everything's on file, I have your plans or any documents or anything like that, there's no reason that I wouldn't approve it on the first look. So if everything's there and I don't have any questions, it's as easy as that. If your project is concerning re-roofing, when you're making your application, make sure you give us the size of the roof, especially if it's flat, and then let us know if you're going to be cutting it or if you're going to be removing it with hand tools, because that's how we make our decisions. So if we don't have that information available, that'll take an email chain or two to get that information. So again, just trying to speed your review up.
Okay. At this time, we have a couple minutes left for questions. So if anyone has any further questions for Robert, Teddy, or Michael, please drop them in the chat.
While we're waiting, Sammy, is it possible to get a poll? I would love to see how many people are from, building officials or consultants, etc. Is there a way for you to do that?
Robert, this is Monica. Yes, I saved the results for all poll questions.
Okay, good.
Lewis did have a question earlier on in the presentation. However, I said I was going to put him in contact with you. Let me go back to it. He was asking about a permit specifically for flooring sound pads to be inspected.
Yeah, I think we may have answered that question before. To be sure, we said, you know what, we have our opinion on this, because we know that EPA has not exempted this. So we checked with DEP as well, and to get their take from their asbestos specialist, and the answer was the same. If it's asbestos and there's mastic, it needs to have survey. There's no, even if you say, well, we're going to carefully take it. The thing is, we just don't know. Even when you did take it off, it may have mastic. Well, we don't know what's under the mastic. We don't know what's in the mastic. And so EPA has not, uh, exempted that. So neither has DEP. And if those two agencies have not exempted it, then if there's no mastic, well, then we can talk. Then we can talk, Louis. Uh, that is correct. Okay, we don't carpeting. I don't think it's the issue. It has to. The issue is how it's applied. But contact us later, and we'll talk.
Yes, Robert, I did get his email address, so I will put you guys in the email together.
We'll chat.
We do have one further question from Robert. Do mold jobs in commercial buildings require an asbestos survey?
Do mold jobs?
Yes. Do mold jobs in commercial buildings require an asbestos survey?
So I can answer this one.
Yeah, you go ahead. Go ahead, Michael.
So this is actually a very common violation. We issued a NOV recently to a company who had, I guess they were having water damage, stuff like that. They removed a very large amount of drywall and areas and stuff like that that were affected. So typically mold jobs, if it's maybe like a tiny cut out of a piece of wall, it's possible that wouldn't require something. But regardless, it's going to require that you get a renovation permit, and at that point, that'll trigger you coming to us. Whenever you're going to be removing, I mean, for example, Broward County specifically, you have to get a permit for removing, changing your cabinets. So you can kind of work your way up from there, as like I guess is like strictness or requirements or like who's coming to us. But yeah, so typically a lot of mold jobs, they usually come in when there is a heavy amount of water damage. So if there is a large enough area being removed, say more than 160 square feet or 400, what is it, 420 linear feet, I believe. Anything like areas more than that would require an asbestos report.
Okay, thank you, Michael. We will now move on to the last slide.
All right, so this is our contact information and further resources. This is our last slide, so we want to thank you for attending today, and I'll leave Robert or any of our speakers the floor so that they can provide additional information if needed. Thank you so much.
Well, yeah, this is Robert. So first of all, thank everybody for joining us today. I know everybody has plans and other things, so thank you for spending the time with us. We are open for any discussion you may have. Louis, call us, email us. We are reasonable people, but we do follow the rules and regulations and policies, and so whatever we do, usually is backed by some kind of a rule or regulation. I want to thank everyone involved in this. Michael, thank you. Teddy, excellent job. Monique in the background, keeping an eye on the system running for us. Thank you. Monica, obviously, and Sammy for coordinating all this. Thank you so much. We would appreciate if you guys can give us some feedback. We know we had some glitches here and there. With mine, it was me running through a VPN, whereas I could have just gone through a simple, internet, connection here. So apologize for that. But we do appreciate your comments and feedback so we can do a better job next time. So with that, you have our contact information here. Feel free to communicate with us whenever you need help or further clarification. Monica, ready to sign off?
Yes, thank you everyone again for joining us. We'll have the presentation recorded, and we will also have this on our website. So the broward.org/air. That's where you'll find the asbestos compliance section. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone, and we hope to see you soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.